What if the person breaking you down is doing it with a smile and you don't even realize it? Have you ever questioned your worth, only to realize it started when a certain someone came into your life? They don't need to scream or shout. Some destroy you, one quiet word at a time. These aren't just bad habits or occasional mood swings, these are calculated tactics. Let's dive into the first clear sign you're dealing with someone who's not just difficult, but destructive emotional manipulation. One of the earliest and most dangerous signs that you're dealing with someone who wants to tear you down is their ability to manipulate your emotions. And it rarely starts loudly. At first it's quiet, subtle, like a slow-moving storm forming on the edge of your life. They know what buttons to press. They study your insecurities, your hesitations, your fears, and they twist them ever so gently until they've wrapped themselves around your mind. It might begin with a small comment, harmless, even playful on the surface, but it hits you somewhere deep. You brush it off. Maybe they're just joking. Maybe they had a rough day. But then it happens again and again, until these little emotional jabs become part of your daily life. Soon their words start to echo inside you, louder than your own voice. You begin to doubt yourself. You hesitate before making choices. You question your instincts. Your self-confidence doesn't vanish overnight. It fades gradually, bit by bit, like a candle burning low. And before you know it, you're not sure who you are anymore. They prey on your deepest vulnerabilities. They don't just want to hurt you in the moment, they want to leave you questioning everything long after they've left the room. They implant seeds of self-doubt that take root in your mind. So when you face challenges, it's not your strength you hear, it's their voice, whispering that you're not good enough. You second-guess everything. Your relationships, your actions, your worth. And that's exactly what they want to keep you disoriented, dependent, unsure. Their manipulation isn't loud or obvious. It's a slow erosion of your emotional foundation. If something goes well in your life, it's not because you're talented. It's because you got lucky. If you feel joy, it's not real. It's because you're being naive. Even your wins are rewritten to feel like losses. You may not even realize it's happening. Because they're not yelling at you, they're disarming you. They twist your strengths into flaws. They make your pride feel like arrogance. They drain your joy and replace it with guilt or shame. And you start apologizing, not for mistakes, but simply for existing. And then it gets worse. Over time, right and wrong start to blur. You find yourself taking blame when you've done nothing wrong. You shrink your voice. You compromise your boundaries. You begin to feel small, even in places where you once stood tall. And the scariest part, you believe them. You begin to see yourself through their eyes, flawed, unworthy, never enough. Their manipulation becomes the lens through which you see the world. You forget what it feels like to be fully confident, at peace, or free. Because that's their goal, to keep you tethered to their chaos, to their control. And as long as they control your emotions, they control you. Once they've broken down your emotional defenses, the next step is even more damaging. They begin to chip away at your self-worth by constantly undermining your strengths. They won't allow you the space to breathe, to simply exist, without the weight of judgment, shame, or criticism pressing down on you. You're kept in a constant emotional whirlwind because as long as you're spinning off balance, unsure, they stay in control. You begin to feel like you're walking on eggshells. One misplaced word, one small mistake, and suddenly you're in another round of emotional chaos. You shrink your voice. You second-guess your every move. And eventually the confident, clear version of yourself begins to disappear. The person you once were, bold, capable, full of direction, slowly fades as their voice grows louder inside your head. It's terrifying because when you finally catch a moment of clarity, you realize just how deep the damage runs. And here's the cruel truth. It was never about love. It was never about care. It was about power. They keep you emotionally disoriented so they can dominate. When you're questioning your worth, you're easier to control. That's why it's time to recognize the signs. To stop mistaking manipulation for affection. You deserve better than fear, better than confusion. You deserve peace. You deserve your voice back. And above all, you deserve the freedom to be fully yourself, unfiltered, unburdened. But the manipulation doesn't stop with your emotions. It creeps into another realm, your achievements. Another major sign that you're dealing with someone who wants to destroy you is their constant calculated attack on your accomplishments. They don't just ignore your success, they poison it. Every win you have, every step forward, they twist into something meaningless. They chip away at the core of your identity, making you feel like your hard-earned success was just luck, or worse, undeserved. You land a new job, and they'll say, "Must have been an easy company to get into." You finally finish a project, and they'll respond, "Anyone could have done that." No matter how much you've worked, how much you've sacrificed, they'll act as if it was nothing. And after enough of these subtle jabs, you begin to believe it. You question whether your success really matters. You wonder if you're just fooling everyone, including yourself. That's their strategy to diminish your light until you stop shining altogether. Even when you accomplish something big, don't expect a celebration. Instead, expect sabotage. Expect them to change the subject to bring up an old failure to suggest you didn't do it well enough. You did okay, but remember that time you messed up. They twist your victories into reminders of your flaws. And when that happens, enough times your joy begins to feel like guilt. Your self-pride feels like shame. Your achievements become burdens instead of milestones. But you don't have to accept that, because real support celebrates your growth. Real love honors your efforts. Once they've made you question your victories, both big and small, their next move is to undermine your confidence through criticism disguised as concern. They won't just downplay your big achievements, they'll also chip away at the little victories that matter just as much. That day you pushed through a rough week, finished a project, or simply showed up for yourself. Those are moments you should be proud of. But instead of celebrating with you, they'll say, "It's not a big deal," or "Anyone could have done that." And it stings, because deep down, you know how much it took to get there. This isn't about honest feedback. It's about control. They want to keep you in a place where you're never fully standing in your strength, where you hesitate to believe in your progress. They don't just ignore your dreams, they sabotage them before they even begin. If you mention a goal, they'll scoff. If you show ambition, they'll plant doubt. Do you really think you can handle that? Isn't that a bit out of your league? It's subtle, but over time those seeds of doubt take root. You begin to hesitate. You begin to wonder if maybe they're right. Maybe you're not ready. Maybe your ideas are too big. And so you stall. You stop trying. You retreat into fear. They don't just want you to fail, they want you to never even try. Because your growth, your success, your confidence, it all threatens them. If you start believing in yourself, their grip on you loosens. You see through the lies. You begin to pull away. And that's the last thing they want. This isn't random, it's calculated. It's repeated. It's a strategy of emotional sabotage designed to keep you small. And the longer you stay in it, the more you start to internalize their message. You begin to believe you don't deserve the success, the peace, or the life you're working for. That lie becomes a mental prison, one they built, but you've locked yourself inside. And here's the truth. They don't want you to realize. Your worth is not up for debate. You don't need anyone's permission to celebrate your progress. Your victories, big or small, are real. They matter. And you've earned them. You are not who they say you are. You are who you choose to become. But they won't stop there. Next, they'll shift from subtle sabotage to relentless criticism, and not the kind that helps you grow. No, this is criticism with no purpose except to control and belittle. It will feel like advice. It might sound like concern, but underneath, it's a one that slowly breaks down. Your spirit makes you question everything you do and keeps you trapped in a cycle of self-doubt. After undermining your confidence with constant criticism, they shift to an even more damaging tactic, highlighting your flaws while ignoring your efforts. They will zero in on your weaknesses and flaws, even the smallest ones, and magnify them until they feel like mountains. It doesn't matter how much you've achieved or how hard you've worked, those things are brushed aside. Instead of celebrating your progress, they'll act as if what you did is just the bare minimum, something that anyone could have done. You might finish a major project, solve a difficult problem, or overcome a personal struggle, and what do you get? Silence. Or worse, criticism disguised as helpful advice. They won't say, "Well done." Instead, they'll point out what you missed, what you didn't do, or how you could have done it faster, better, smarter. It's not feedback, it's erosion. Bit by bit, your self-esteem starts to wear away. And here's what makes it even more dangerous: their words rarely come with solutions. If you ask them how to improve, they'll offer nothing useful. No constructive advice, no steps forward. Just a flood of negativity meant to make you feel like you're always falling short. And that constant stream of criticism starts to sound like truth. You begin to absorb it. You start to see yourself through their eyes. Doubt creeps in slowly. At first, then spreads. You question your judgment, your actions, your choices. Am I good enough? Did I do that right? Their goal isn't to help you grow, it's to make you dependent, to keep you small. And the more you believe their version of you, the less you trust your own voice. Sometimes it won't be blunt. It'll be sugar-coated. Backhanded compliments like, "That outfit looks good." "Finally figured it out, huh?" Or, "I'm surprised you finished on time." "I didn't think you would." They sound polite at first, but they sting. You smile, but deep down, you feel small. That's the game. To confuse you. To make you feel like nothing you do is ever enough, even when you're doing your best. The emotional toll. It builds, day by day. You become tired, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally drained. You begin to question your worth. You hesitate more. You wait for their approval before making a move. You look for their nod before you believe in yourself. And that's when they've succeeded, because now they control your confidence. They've placed themselves between you and your own self-worth. But it doesn't have to stay that way. There's one more tactic they use, one that binds everything together. After chipping away at your confidence with criticism and control, they move on to their most dangerous tactic, yet isolating you from everyone who truly cares. At first, you may not even notice it. It starts small. An offhand comment here, a subtle remark there. "Your friend doesn't understand you like I do." Or, "Your family always judges you, don't they?" You shrug it off. You think it's just one opinion, but those seeds of doubt start to take root. Slowly, you begin to question your relationships. Maybe your friend was a little distant. Maybe your family has been a bit too critical lately. And then, before you know it, you're pulling away. You stop calling. You stop making plans. The people who've stood by you for years start to fade into the background. And who's still there? The one who planted the doubt in the first place. That's how isolation begins. Not with force, but with suggestion. Not with obvious demands, but with emotional nudges that sound like concern. "I just want what's best for you." They don't get you like I do. It feels like love. It feels like care. But it's not. It's manipulation. They want you to rely solely on them. They want to be your only source of comfort, your only sounding board. Because when they're the only voice in your life, they can shape your reality. It doesn't stop with friends and family. Over time, they start to influence your decisions, where you go, who you talk to, how you spend your time. You begin declining invitations. You skip gatherings. And all the while, you convince yourself it's your choice. But is it really, they'll say, why go? They don't really care about you. Or, you're better off just staying with me. And it doesn't feel like a command, but it is. Because now, when you think about seeing others, you feel guilty, disloyal. You've been conditioned to think they're the only one who truly understands you. That's the danger. It's not just physical separation, it's emotional captivity. You begin to lose your sense of self. Your identity becomes tangled in their approval. You don't make decisions for yourself anymore. You defer to them. What should I do? Do you think I'm overreacting? Was that the right choice? Your independence fades. Your inner voice goes quiet. And they love that. Because now you depend on them for confidence, for direction, for validation. And the more you rely on them, the less you believe you can survive on your own. But here's the truth. You can. You were never meant to walk through life alone. You were never meant to be cut off from your community, from love, from support. Healthy relationships encourage you to grow, not shrink. They help you reconnect with your strength, not make you forget it. So if you've started withdrawing from those who truly care about you, if you've begun to believe that only one person holds the key to your happiness, it's time to take a step back. It's time to reassess. Because isolation is not protection, it's a trap. And the first step to breaking free is remembering who you were before the manipulation began. After isolation comes the next devastating tactic, the emotional trap of guilt. Once they've separated you from your support system, they start making you feel responsible for their every emotion. They don't just criticize what you do, they criticize who you are. It's not about whether you made a mistake, it's about making you feel like you as a person are the problem. And one of the most devastating ways they do this? By making you feel guilty simply for existing. It starts subtly. You express an emotion, frustration, sadness, disappointment, and they dismiss it. Why are you always so sensitive, they ask. Why can't you just move on? Over time, you stop expressing yourself. You bottle up your feelings, afraid they'll mock or minimize them. You begin to question, am I too much? Am I too emotional? And then the guilt sets in. Suddenly, it's your fault they're upset. If they're angry, it's because you did something wrong. If they're cold or distant, it's because you didn't say the right thing. You find yourself constantly on edge, adjusting every word and action to avoid upsetting them. You begin to lose sight of your own truth. You stop asserting your needs. You silence your desires. You live in fear, not of violence perhaps, but of emotional backlash, of being told you're selfish, of being accused of making things harder. This isn't love. This is control. They'll turn your attempts at balance into selfishness. When you try to communicate, you're accused of complaining. When you seek space, you're accused of abandoning them. When you ask for support, they call you needy. And the worst part, you start to believe them. That's what guilt does. It seeps in. It makes you think you're the problem. It keeps you stuck, sacrificing your joy to preserve theirs. But, let's be honest, no matter how much you twist yourself into knots, it's never enough. You can't make someone happy who's committed to being miserable. You can't carry a burden that was never meant to be yours. Your responsibility is not to fix someone else's brokenness. Your job is not to shrink so they feel big. Your life is not meant to be lived under the weight of someone else's emotional storms. So if you feel like you're constantly apologizing for having feelings, if you've been made to believe your needs are too much, too inconvenient, or unworthy, it's time to step back and reclaim your worth. Because here's what's true. Your emotions are valid. Your needs matter. And guilt is not a measure of your value. Don't let them weaponize guilt against you. Don't let them redefine your identity. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to need. And you are absolutely allowed to walk away from anyone who makes you feel otherwise. As we move into the final part of this series, we'll talk about how to rise above this manipulation, how to reclaim your power and rediscover who you were before their influence took hold.